who knows, I might. Say when you're ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
What do you want to be when you grow up? How many times were you asked this question when you were young? What did I want to be when I was growing up? And why did I have so many answers before I was even 8 years old? Maybe because I was born in a tiny German Catholic town in southern Indiana. Perhaps because I grew up with very little money. Whatever the reasons, all of my growing up dreams involved money and leaving Indiana to see the world. In other words, I wanted free travel. More specifically, in answer to, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to write for National Geographic magazine. Free travel around the world with a nice camera. I wanted to follow in the footsteps of Get Smart and be an international spy. Free travel abroad and you could make phone calls from your shoe. I wanted to be an ambassador to Asia or a UN worker in Africa. Free travel and a home on a different continent. Of course, I wanted to be an astronaut. Free travel, long flights, out of this world. So what did I, a small town Midwestern girl, do to make her childhood wishes come true? Well, in kindergarten, I dug huge holes in our tiny backyard, following my mom's instructions on how to get to China without a plane ticket. In elementary school, I started a detective club with my 3 best friends. We picked and sold wild blackberries to the local restaurant. We picked enough to buy our first train ticket out of town to the big state capital. We followed a suspicious woman in a red dress on the train, and even for a few blocks after we got off the train. We were honing in on our international espionage skills. In high school, I was chosen to represent Japan at a Model UN conference outside of Indiana, Ohio, but still. In college, I paid my way by working at Indiana University's photo lab at night, studying journalism and international politics by day. My dreams started to come true. Less than a half a year after graduating from college, I landed in China, and not through my backyard sandbox, but via a free trip for photographers and journalists. It was completely paid for by the Chinese government. I had written an essay, apparently a convincing essay, that I knew, and somehow I did know, that I would spend the rest of my life fostering U.S.-China relations. My dream continued to unfold. A couple years later, I literally rode into China on a bicycle. I had received a call from a friend. He said, "Tese, I'm setting up the first bicycle tours to China. Will you lead bicycle tours for me?" Yes, free travel. And I was off leading some of the first groups of fearless Westerners on 3-speed Chinese bikes up mountains and through villages along the back roads of 1983 China. While I have stopped riding bikes as my main source of transportation, I haven't stopped working as a China tour leader. Why, after almost 4 decades, am I still leading tours as a professional tour leader? I get asked this question a lot. Free travel? Yes. I still love the free ticket perk, but that is a comparatively tiny reason why my suitcase is always packed and I am ready to go. So why do I still, decades later, continue taking on the challenges and the responsibilities of a professional tour leader? It is partly about the free travel. And I have to admit, it's pretty exciting to lead adventure travel tours to places few have ventured. But fundamentally, it's about the people. It's about the people you travel with. It's about the people you meet. It's about the connections you make. The interactions between strangers from different sides of the planet. No matter how many times that I've climbed up the Great Wall or gazed down at hundreds of life-size pottery soldiers, my goosebumps still creep. Yet, what literally takes my breath away is when I notice one of my group members drop her camera in amazement. I watch her eyes fill with wonder, then fill with tears, overwhelmed by these 2,000-year-old soldiers rising out of the ground. And every day is different because every traveler is different. It's not the dot on the map, but the eyes and the hearts and the curiosity of each individual traveler that inspires me. They make me experience each day differently. Over the years, my travel journals continue to repeat the same phrase, first in lowercase letters. What if I had missed today? Then, magic markered in capital letters. What if I had missed today? What if I hadn't led this group? I pick up my 2016 Silk Road Trip Journal and ponder this question, this group. I think specifically of the youngest and the oldest travelers in this group. What if I had missed Janet's talk that she wanted to rehearse for an upcoming medical conference? She had picked up the bus microphone and invited those interested in listening to go to the back of the bus. We laughed as we all got up, leaving the front half of the bus empty. Soon we were crying. Janet, 41, delivered a talk about being a physician and a terminally ill patient. It was called Optimistically Approaching the Abyss. She picked up the microphone again and said, I want to see, touch, do, taste, smell, feel everything. I want to go everywhere, walk the earth, climb the mountains and snowboard down, try everything at least once. I'm here now to experience everything, to dance and sing and laugh around the world. What if I had missed her joy of life and her mother's face hearing her daughter embrace and inspire us with the short life she had left? Janet did inspire us to dance and sing and laugh all along the Silk Road. I believe it was because of Janet's approach to life, and yes, to death, that we were unexpectedly pulled into 2 different wedding celebrations in 2 different countries to celebrate and dance and laugh with strangers. And we did with Janet. We celebrated and danced and laughed with strangers. And what if I had missed traveling with 87-year-old Richard? He was a well-known Himalayan mountain expedition leader, one of the first to scale a number of 18,000-foot-plus mountains. Now stooped over, cane in hand, and traveling alone, he was on my Silk Road tour for another first, to scale a double-humped camel and ride across the singing sands of the Gobi Desert. What if I had missed the poignant, the magical moment of sharing his excitement as I tightened his leather stirrups and shooed off his camel into the sunset? And what about the people we meet along the way? I'm talking about our local guides. What if I hadn't had a choice to work with them and get to know them? Who could forget little Pan, or Amy as she likes to be called? When roads were closed to all vehicles due to the Chinese president's arrival in Dunhuang, little Pan led us by foot down tiny, dark, dusty, crooked alleys and suddenly, abruptly, through the stage door to our theater seats. Just in time. Angels flew and humans dressed as bunnies popped out of tiny barrels. It was an acrobatic extravaganza in the middle of the Gobi Desert. Or Olga. It was our last day in northwest China. We spent the morning slowly winding up to over 12,000 feet to the remote Turgort Pass. Exhausted and lightheaded, we had to get off the bus and drag all of our luggage across this desolate border. Out of a snow flurry, Olga appeared with plastic cups. With her no-nonsense smile, she welcomed us into her country and demanded we drink vodka. Not all magical moments stop at the Chinese border. One spring, I was leading a group trek to North Vietnam. While no one knew each other, each were there because they had lost a brother or friend in the Vietnam War. On our last night, the 6 of us set up camp at 6 p.m. when it was getting dark. Too early to fall asleep on a Friday night, we laid next to each other in our sleeping bags and just started singing old 60s songs. After we ran out of songs and started dozing off, Min, our 23-year-old North Vietnamese guide, suddenly blurted out, "Sing Imogene! Sing Imogene!" "Min, we don't know Imogene." "You know Imogene. Imogene, a world without war. Imogene, a world full of peace." We burst out laughing. Then we softly sang all the words to John Lennon's Imagine, our sleeping bags damp with tears. Let me end with a longer story. Not long after this Vietnam tour, which was the smallest group I'd ever led, I agreed to co-lead the largest group I have ever led, 80-some travelers to Sikkim. My brother Gary was the other leader. Our trip ended in New Delhi with a special day-long audience with His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Many times that day, I watched the Dalai Lama tilt his head back, close his eyes, and let out a wonderful roar. I marveled at his ability to laugh after all that he and his people endured. When he left the stage for the last time, I felt a sense of loss. Late that night, my brother and I headed up to the 5th floor, hoping the rumor we heard about the Dalai Lama catching a midnight flight was true. Sure enough, armed guards paced outside of the room closest to the elevator, while monks in saffron robes transported a few pieces of luggage onto the elevator. Suddenly, from the guarded room stepped the Dalai Lama. As he approached, I smiled. He stopped, turned toward me, palms together, and whispered, "Good night." The elevator doors closed, and he was off to the airport. My brother and I quickly glanced at each other. Without speaking, we headed to the Dalai Lama's door. It was unlocked. Silently, we explored his threadbare suite. I was surprised by the simplicity of his room and its similarity to my own. We tiptoed across the faded red carpet. "Gary, does the spirit linger a few minutes before it follows the body?" I wondered, kneeling to rest my forehead against His Holiness's bed. The silent night was broken by the sound of elevator doors opening. I froze in place, noticing my brother poised motionless over a bouquet of roses. What if the footsteps belonged to the police who had been guarding this room for the past 48 hours? They had guns. The footsteps paused outside our door. The door opened. My eyes took in maroon flowing robes. My ears heard a shriek of childlike joy. "You're just like the Tibetans," exclaimed the monk, a broad grin moving towards his large ears. I recognized him immediately. It was Jompa Josang, the Dalai Lama's interpreter. I laughed with Jompa, relieved that our spontaneous trespass was not only lawful, but praiseworthy. Blushing, He held up the room key. I kept the key too, so that I too could sneak in and press my forehead against his bed and chair. John Paul grinned again at me, and then he walked over to my brother, who was just lifting his nose out of that dozen yellow roses. The monk picked up the bouquet. He handed us the flowers one by one until they were all gone. Talk to strangers and magical moments occur. Why am I still doing this 37 years later at the age of 64? My takeaway is not what comes back in my suitcase or the new stamps in my passport. The real reward can't be tagged to US dollars or Chinese renminbi or a free ticket. It is experiencing the moments when East and West come together. Lasting moments, like when a simple smile breaks down the language and cultural barriers, and a Chinese grandmother gently lifts her granddaughter into the arms of a new Western friend, an admiring American grandmother. Lasting moments, like the night we danced with Janet in Kazakhstan, or sang Imogene with men in Vietnam, or shared lingered spirits and yellow roses with Jampa in India.
Oh.
Now see if my hair was like bugging me. It was like on my nose.